In this video, I will show you how to do this adorable little layout. Here's my inspiration for this page. I'm going to take this idea and make it my own from Create Sketches magazine that came out a million years ago. I was thinking about doing it on 2 pages, but I think I'm just going to do 1. And here's my paper from Creative Memories. It's from a kit called Reflections. I'm just lining it up on my scrap and easel so that it's straight, so that everything else I do will be nice and straight. Here are my photos that I'm going to use. These are my children. This is a photo taken in 2009, and I just thought that they were being adorable, of course. I'm going to go ahead and use Cricut Design Space to make a really big ampersand. So here we are. I'm just choosing which font that I want it to be, and I'm actually choosing a font that's already uploaded onto my computer, just computer fonts, since it's free. I'm choosing the Georgia font, which sort of comes standard on most computers, and I'm going to make it about 5.5 inches wide. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut that out on my Cricut. And once it loads, I'm choosing vellum because I'm going to cut this out on vellum. So I want the settings set properly on my Cricut for vellum. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut it. And here we have our cute little vellum ampersand. And it's just sort of a nice touch, being that it's out of vellum. You can see through it, but you can also see it. And here I'm going to, I cut out some banner flags with this little punch that I have. That's just these little banner shapes that you'll just see in a second. This paper is from Creative Memories Heart and Soul kit. And I'm going to punch a hole in the center top area of each one of these little banners because I'm going to run some twine through it. And this isn't the standard hole punch size, and it isn't the tiny pinhole one either. It's sort of in the middle. It's a nice size to run some twine through, or some sort of thick, this kind of stuff right here that I have. I'm not sure what this is called, but it's a sort of thick burlappy kind of, that's not the right word. I don't know what it is. But I'm going to run this through each banner so that the banners hang on this. And I'm just going to put it up. I'm just kind of deciding how it will look. And here we have all of the banners on the twine. And I'm just sort of figuring out how I'm going to place it. And just sort of how I want it to look. And I'm just going to straighten these out real quick. I sort of want to have it look natural and not too perfect. Just sort of like it just happens to be there. I don't know. I decided to put the kissing picture at the top and then the giggling afterwards. And I'm just sort of figuring that out. But I liked how it looked, and I think that's how it happened anyway, so I like that. I punched out some clouds, and I'm putting those at the top of the page. And then I have this little cartridge, Border Maker cartridge, or BMC, from Creative Memories, of these little houses, and I use this all the time. I use it as an entire strip, 12 inches. Sometimes I just use one house, sometimes I'll use like 4 little houses. Just depends on what I'm doing. And here I have it cut out in this nice blue paper, I think. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. It's just like a soft blue, that same Creative Memories reflection pack. And then I'm going to take this chevron punch, and this is a great border, but I'm actually going to use the little pieces that come out, the little positive pieces. And I'm going to use that same color paper that I used on the houses. It's sort of kind of a swirly light blue on a medium blue color, sort of a neutral tone on tone color. So I'm going to use some of those like little arrows. Now I'm using my computer to write out a little quote for the page that is by Roald Dahl. Watch with glittering eyes the whole world round you. And I'm choosing Courier. It looks like a typewriter. It's a really nice font. I like that style. This quote is a little bit longer, but I'm just using this part of it. It's such a beautiful quote. And then I'm just going to print that out onto vellum. Now I have my Creative Memories personal trimmer, and I'm cutting down my quote. I used my 12-inch trimmer to get it to be smaller to fit in my personal trimmer, but I'm using the personal trimmer to get it just right as I'm cutting very close to the words here. It's a very good precision because it's a guillotine cut. So I'm just lining that up to see how to look there, and I'm using my little magnets that came with my scrap and easel to just see everything. I'm not going to glue anything down until I'm happy with how it looks, and that's how I work every time I use my magnetic easel from Scrap and Easel, and I set everything up. I learned the hard way when I first started scrapbooking that starting to glue it down before you even know where everything's going to go is just chaos. It's just a crazy way. It works out sometimes, but this way I can see how it's going to look before I adhere it. And here I am using those little chevrons like arrows. I'm not sure yet, so I'm just deciding, just kind of laying them out and seeing how they look. And I think I'm just going to use one of these houses, one with the heart, instead of a few houses. Just like a little embellishment. Take my scissors and just kind of cut it out. And this scrap and easel is a little bit angled. It's not flat. I angled the camera so you could see the page really well. But this is lifted up, which is great because then I don't have neck and back pain. Now I'm going to use the Spellbinders letters for my title. And I used light gray from Creative Memories, the light gray cardstock, with these Spellbinders alpha die cuts. And these don't have anything sticky on them, but they just happen to be staying on the easel just to make me happy and make life easy. But I think some of them might start to slide here, but I'm just kind of laying them out so I have an idea of how the whole thing will look. And then here's that paper that I used for the houses, or the house, and the chevrons. So I'm going to cut some hearts out of that same paper. And I can't decide if I want that color or if I want that light gray that I used for the title. It's almost a whitish beige. It's a very, very, very light gray. So I'm just trying to decide which paper to use on those hearts. And here comes the exciting part. We are attaching everything to the page. I'm using my tape runner, and I'm starting with my photos. Since they're a good shape that's, it's square, it helps me line that along the edge of the page, along the edge of the photo, to have a really good idea for all the other little elements to be straight, or at least these photos will be straight along the edge of the paper. In this instance, this page, that's how I wanted it. Sometimes I don't have straight photos, but in this case I do. And I will lightly place them down and sort of move them around and make sure they are how I want them before I press them down firmly. Just so that I'm, not having to rip things up if it went slightly crooked. And on my vellum, I'm using the vellum tape runner, as that is, sort of invisible behind. You won't really see it coming through. So that's a really nice thing that Creative Memories has. And I use a lot of vellum, so I use a lot of vellum tape runner. And then I'm just adding the little house. And we'll put some vellum tape runner on the back of the ampersand, since that is made out of vellum. And you can see it here, but you can see that tape runner in the back there. But once we place it down and we kind of push it in, you won't see it. And I want it to go underneath the photo, so here I'm grabbing my multi-purpose tool so that I can lift the photo a little bit to get the ampersand underneath. You can almost see the tape, the vellum tape runner, and then you just press it in and it sort of disappears. It'll depend on the color paper that's behind it quite a bit. Sometimes certain colors will just show that tape runner and some won't. For the most part, I've noticed lighter papers behind vellum make that vellum tape runner disappear. Sometimes the darker ones, I don't know what the rhyme or reason is. There's probably a really good reason for certain materials showing it. And now we have our title. I'm just sort of figuring out where I want it before I start gluing it down. I can't believe it's staying on the scrap and easel like this without me attaching it with anything. It's being so nice. It's very helpful. And like usual, I will many times start with whatever edge it's closest to. So if that's the end of the word, then that's the first letter I'm starting with, just so I know it's going to fit. That A in P's is not being very nice. He slid down. I figured it would be just a matter of time. But I'm using my Creative Memories Precision Point adhesive. It's just like a little glue pen, and my Mrs. Grossman's tweezers to get this all just how I want it. And you just need a little bit of that Precision Point adhesive. You don't want too much, so then it is a liquid, so you don't want it to spew out through the edges. You just want enough so it attaches your letter or your embellishment to the page. I don't use it with photos. I only use it with very small embellishments, lots of times with letters, because they have, these little skinny edges, and it's a lot easier to use the Precision Point adhesive than using a tape runner. Sometimes I will use the repositionable tape runner because you just run that over. You don't have to line it up with anything, and then you just sort of wipe away any residue you have from the repositionable tape runner adhesive. Now we need to attach our clouds and our chevrons. So I'm going to use a mini stapler because I don't think glue or tape runner is going to stick to this twine. It's very rough. I have used precision point adhesive to get this sort of twine to stick to a page, but I did glue across the entire piece of twine. So after it dried, it held it in place pretty good. But in this case, I'm only going to attach it in 2 places on each edge. So I like the idea of a little mini stapler, but I forgot how this thing worked, so I need to mess with it for a minute to figure it out. I'm just going to hold the twine and the paper and staple it down on that edge. And then I'm going to do it at the top on the other side. And there you have, the twine is attached to the page. It's a good way to attach non-conventional type scrapbook items. You don't want anything too big in your albums because it might smash the photos on the other side, might dent things. Just something small, and then I'm going to cover the staples with the hearts, so those staples, I like how they look, but I'm gonna cover them with hearts. Put the vellum on the back of the clouds, the vellum tape runner adhesive. And still trying to decide on that color of heart to put on the twine. Here I'm going to use the Creative Memories Shape Punch. It's a little camera with a heart in the middle. And I've decided to just use the heart. I just wanted a smaller heart, and I like the shape of this one. So it's a quick and easy way to get different size things, is pieces that come out of other shapes. There would be even a smaller heart that would come out of that house there at the bottom if I wanted a smaller heart. But I like this size for this one. Putting a little bit of precision point adhesive on the back and deciding where to put that one. I like how it looks with the cloud. I'm using the pickup square. It's just this little tacky thing from Creative Memories because I got a little bit of precision point adhesive on the edge of my number 3. I put a little too much, as I talked about earlier. You don't want to put too much because it'll come out. Then it gets sticky, so then you wait for it to dry if this does happen to you. And this pickup square just picks it up really nicely. It just sort of wipes away, but you got to be gentle because we're talking about paper here. And I don't want to leave any of that residue because it could get stuck to something else on the page or the page protector. There you have it. Don't forget to put the little chevrons on. I forgot, but you'll see it in a moment. But that's my ampersand page.